I met a gypsy.
Like, were you always a dude that was down to go super fast? Like, was that something you always enjoyed? Or was it something that you kind of got used to? Like, because how much did fear play a part in those early days of road racing? Because it's very, very different to go from riding a dirt bike and, you know, doing dirt track to going 200-300 k's an hour.
The speed never excited me, to be honest. And if anything, that was something I was scared of. So that's when, back to a 250 production bike, I never wanted to ride anything faster. You know, 200k back then, that's around what they were doing, 200, 210
on the 250.
On the 250 street bike stuff, and you know, that was fast enough. But then when you get on the racetrack, well, number one, you don't have a speedometer on the thing anyway. There's no speedo, so you're not really sort of watching that. It's only when you crash that you realise how fast you're going, or you're off on the grass. You know, someone who's pushed you off on the grass, and you realise how quick you're going. So speed become irrelevant. It's more how quick and how you get your eye in, as you hear in many different things. But so it was nothing about that and fear. I think you need a healthy dose of fear to keep yourself safe. So,
yeah.
And so people often say you've got to be fearless, you've got to be this. No, if anything, you need fear.
Yeah.
And you just need to know how to manage that and know where that grey area is, you know, because you push yourself into that grey area and then things will turn to brown real quick.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, the closer you can stay at that grey and the age of that grey area, the further it gets pushed out. And I think that was, you just got to understand where that is, and keep working to try and keep pushing that grey area out. And but yeah, you need that healthy dose of fear, otherwise you're going to hurt yourself and hurt everyone else around you.
Well, because that was one of the interesting things talking to Casey, is that he said that he was just so scared his entire career. And even, you know, you look at like turn 3, for instance, at Phillip Island, the way that he goes into that turn, that's where you go, like, he is fearless. But he said that he developed his style through that turn because he was so scared of losing the front, that he needed to develop a way to feel like he could never lose the front in that turn. And it just so happened to result in a 260 kilometer an hour power slide for, you know, for seconds. But that was him trying to deal with the fear. And then, I mean, I think the gnarliest part of the fear thing is maybe not so much being on the bike, but you go through the crash that you had in 92, and then you literally end up getting your legs sewn together because of how bad the injury was to promote blood flow. And then your legs go back to, you know, then you get your legs separated, and then you've got to look at the 93 season, and, you know, you're pretty much riding 93 with one leg. Like, that to me, I think, is where the fear must really come in. Like, if you can go back to like that period of your life and you think about the mental things that you had to deal with to go from that 92 crash to even racing a bike again, like that, I think is probably more so when the fear would come in.
Yeah, I think if you hurt yourself and you don't know why you've hurt yourself, then it's a different thing. But, you know, number one, I think anybody in a sport like that, or in sport in general at a professional level, other than golf, I guess, you know, there's a few other sports that perhaps you don't think injuries are, you're going to get taken out by something. But, you know, when you're on a motorcycle racing anyway, you understand that you can injure yourself seriously. You know, there's a possibility of killing yourself, you know, or being killed in a race and whatever. So you've got to sort of process that anyway. And when you do hurt yourself, you're almost prepared for it anyway. So it's like, well, okay, here I am.
I get it. Yeah.
And so what do I need to do to get going? But if there's a bunch of and people do lose confidence sometimes because they don't know, one, what happened, or they hop back on again and then they crash again. They don't know what happened because I think they're in that grey zone, and they're outside of they're outside of their ability, and then they keep crashing and they don't know why, instead of pulling it back and then slowly progressing
working
again.
yourself back up.
So yeah, when I had those injuries, coming back on, for sure, it's unknown. I don't know what I'm going to be like. especially with some of the injuries I had. I didn't have the right the rear brake and the right foot didn't move, and then so all this type of stuff. So you have to adjust. So it's just a matter of working back through again. So these are the things that are a little bit scary to me, rather than can I ride the bike, and then it's just working your way forward again, and then the other thing you were scared about is if I crash again, how strong is the leg?
Because it wasn't even together really for the 93 season, right?
93, no, it was a non-union essentially. So it was they finished the end of that year with about almost a 15 to 20 degree angulation in the leg, but I could grab my ankle and my knee and you could flex the leg. So that's I finished. I crashed in Laguna Seca in the States while leading in 93. And through the injury, I just didn't have the strength. I was using too much upper body through the corkscrew and flick the bike up off the ground just instead of, because you normally steer it with your feet. You still do today, but you
just didn't have the power in that foot.
And then it's the bike gets light anyway, and the bike stepped out. I ended up running off I ended up crashing, and I stayed in the States. I think I was running third in the championship at that point in time, and I think Daryl Beattie was running fourth. I could have went back for the next race and probably maintained the third position, but third, fourth, it didn't really matter to me. It was, and so I stayed in the US to fix the leg and put this Ilizarov external fixator device on with a guy who's now a friend of mine. Dr. Kevin Louie in the US. So put that together, got the leg back straight and healed, and then essentially started. Now all the road racing boots are like motocross boots, but Alpine Stars. I was with another manufacturer for boots and suits and so on called Nankai in Japan. But they were like a super cheap auto so really they didn't make suits. They were just promoting their brand out. They had about 100 odd stores in Japan. But Gabrielli from Alpine Stars, the owner, said he'd do a boot for me. We just had to non-brand it, and it was like a clamshell, like a plaster boot, because I couldn't move my ankle anyway. So it was just to help if I did smack it on the ground. And then so that was the start of those type of things. But 93 was running just to keep a contract, because I was
because that was a contract year, right? You didn't have a contract for 94.
No, so I only did from 92 onwards. I only did a single contract.
Really?
Contracts.
Really?
Single year contracts, I should say.
So even from World Championship to World Championship, you wanted to just stay one year.
Yeah.
And was that just a business play on your end?
That's right, yeah. So, and if it
gangster.
worked, it worked, and then you had everyone chasing you for. So it did put me in a strong position, but it's like what happened in '93. If the shit hit the fan, then everybody else is telling them that I'm never going to come back. Wayne Gardner had retired in 92. He's saying that Mick's never going to be the same.
Really?
In 92 he retired, but he didn't have a place at Honda. He didn't, so he could have went to a second tier team. He decided to go car racing. Because 92 that they wanted Daryl Beattie and Wayne convinced them to keep him. So then that was that, and then Honda started to think about that, and then Eddie Lawson, I think, was also had retired in '92. So they thought, maybe we just put Eddie in for a few races, and you can't afford to let anybody take a seat for a few races.
Yeah,
and he does well, and then all of a sudden you're struggling to get your seat back. So I had to just continue to ride, just to secure and convince them that I could ride, even if it was only with 1.5 legs. And then so I get myself another to get another contract for 94, and which I did. I won a race in Mugello that year, but I could consistently run in the top 3 or 4 with one leg once I'd organise a rear brake.
Yeah, right. And so did you have anyone doing your contracts with you, or was it pretty much, were you your own manager throughout the career?
No, I had a guy who was sort of helping me from the early days. So we being he and I were doing it all together. But he certainly was on top of how to work with the manufacturers at that time. But he was just based here on the Gold Coast. He'd come to one or two races.
Yeah.
So
you pretty much ran your own program.
100%. So, and then we just play the game.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.